Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. So glad you're with us for this episode of Writer's Chat, where craft connects community. And we are just tickled about our guest today. And thank you, those of you that are watching us live. Thank you for being here. And those watching on the recording, thank you. And just remember, you can catch us almost every Tuesday morning, except during the holidays at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 Central, and go around the globe and find your time slot. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa and she'll introduce our guest for today.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Writer's Chat. We're so glad you're here with us. Oh, one more thing I wanted to throw in too, just in case you're maybe watching for the first time or joining us for the first time, I introduce our co-hosts. So the one who so graciously introduced us today, of course, was Norma Poor. And then I'm also joined by fellow co-host Brandy Bro. And as you heard, I'm Melissa Stroh. So just wanted to throw that out there. I know sometimes we forget we have such a great community that's always here with us, and it's just a comforting and great place to be. So much camaraderie, and that's one thing I love about this place. And speaking of camaraderie, we have a great returning guest who's a good friend of the group and fellow groups that we align with and support, like the 540. And this guest, for those of you who may not be familiar, is Ann Harrison. I'm going to give you a quick little rundown on her bio so that you know a little bit more about her if you have never heard about her writing or listened to her speak with us before. Ann Harrison is the author of Praying Through the Seasons, Seven Aspects of Prayer and Communion with God. She currently is working on her first young adult series entitled Spirit Writer Society, along with a poetry book and devotional series. And she is also a freelance editor. And today she's going to talk with us about how God led her to write her first devotional book and encourage you to step out in faith in the direction that He is leading you in your own writing journey. So, welcome back, Anne. It's so great to have you with us again,
Yes.
and we're looking forward to hearing from you today about this subject.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back. So Brandy, and apparently God was had us both thinking alike because I before we started recording, Brandy prayed, and I'm like, okay, Lord, hopefully Brandy will pray us in. So that was that was a good thing. Okay, so let me start by saying that devotionals, as if God leads you to write a devotional, it is not that hard. If you want to learn how to write short devotionals, you might want to go if you're a member of 540, you might want to go back to the YouTube and watch some stuff by Cindy Sproul that Cindy Sproul has done. For those of you writers chat, I suggest that you invite Cindy Sproul to talk about short devotionals. I'm not going to talk about short devotionals. I'm going to talk about devotionals with a little bit of extra twist, which God actually spoke to me um as I was working on a second poetry book. He said, and I was in a 540 networking session. Okay. God said, I need you to write a devotional to go with the poetry book. I'm going, you need me to what? And then of course he gives me the layout of the outline, the layout of how he wanted the book done first. And it was going to be a big devotional. But then he nudged me, because he'd been nudging me for a couple of years. He nudged me to join Christian Book Academy. Um, and when I got my desktop, I finally was able to do that with the help of another friend who helped me get two screen readers. JAWS for Windows, which is job access with speech, and non-visual desktop access, which is NVDA. Joining didn't work with JAWS, so it worked with NVDA, but that's beside the point. I went through the trainings. I had started writing the devotional, and then Shelley Hitz talked about doing a short devotional book. And as I was still working on that book, God said, you need to take each of these sections and make them into short books. So that's how Praying Through the Seasons was essentially born. I started with different aspects of prayer. I'd gotten inspired through church, um, a church service by an interim pastor. and to do one devotional, and then one led to another. And just as I feel like I'm getting finished with the book, God gives me another one. So I published that book within, let's see, I started doing devotional work in January of last year. With all the different changes and things that I'd done, that book was published in like 6 months. Well, all total, maybe 4 to 6 months. And then, of course, the paperback came out and everything. But the reason I want to encourage you, my devotionals are not just like a guiding Bible verse, a devotional, a story, and then a takeaway, and you're done. I also add writing challenges, creative challenges, and journal journal reflection prompts. How God inspired me to do that. I read Edie Melson's Soul Care for Writers, and as I was reading that, she had Forging a Creative Connection. I didn't want to use the same title of the same concept that she used, but God said add creative challenges. And so that's where those come into. So that's that's how God, helped me put that together. And now I'm working on a couple of devotionals about, journaling and such. I still have the poetry book on the side, you know, that about 80% done. It's still sitting there, but God's like, not yet. So the encouragement I want to give you, and yes, I know my speech is going to be short, but I'm sure there are going to be questions and things. But the encouragement I want to give you is when God tells you to do something, even though it shocks you, just listen and trust him because he's not going to lead you wrong. And he will show you how he wants the devotion, whatever you're trying to write, he'll show you how he wants it written. It's like a second book I'm working on is a journal devotional for healing. And he's instead of me doing a short testimonial book, he has prompted me to add bits of my testimony into this new devotional that I'm working on. I've got the basic foundation of the book completed, but I'm still working on that. But yeah, sometimes when God tells you to do something, it happens in his timing and it happens, as he gives you the guidance, the download, whatever. Because sometimes it'll be words that are flowing through my brain and I have to get them onto the keys. And sometimes it's sometimes it's a thought process, or sometimes I get an image. I have a dream or have a textural image. I don't see in color since I'm totally blind, but I see in texture, and sometimes I'll get an image, a visual. If you guys know what I'm talking about.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll get that, and that'll inspire me to write something new. So just go with God. Trust in what God is telling you to write. Even if you're in the middle of one project and he pulls you into another one, just go with it because you're going to be blessed. And the object of the whole thing is to, follow what God tells you and bless others as he blesses you with the writing. And even if it gets hard, you got to push through because you're going to be rewarded on the other side. I've learned that a long time ago. So that's kind of my story of how God got me started in writing devotionals. I know it's short, sweet, and to the point, but if anybody's got questions or, you know,
Well, we have them commenting in the chat about the song Trust and Obey. And that's really what you're saying here is just trust and obey
yes,
God. And the other thing that catches my attention is that you are in the midst of being busy about your work. And so God is able to steer you. If we're not busy writing or not doing the things that God has called us to do or the work he has put into our hands, then he cannot steer us because we're not ready. So he might not tell us to write this or write that, or he might not shift us because we're still not in the place where he would like us to be before he can do that. So if we are diligent to work and do the writing and whatever else he's called us to do, even if it's not writing, if applying to all general life, then we will be in a position to receive from God and be willing to go and do whatever he asks us at the time.
Exactly. And another thing too, and I've heard this from Shay Bynes on the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur podcast before it went into, their video podcast a couple of years ago. And Shelley Hitz always says this, God can't direct a car. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to put another spin on that. God won't direct a car.
You're absolutely right.
You
I
have to
do. I
make
really
that.
do.
You have to take that first tiny step. That's what I'm learning in the Christian Book Academy Progress Pod that I'm in. You have to be willing to take that first tiny step,
Mm.
and then God can guide you forward.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on that, to take the first right step. Because sometimes we may be doing our own thing and what we want to do, and God's saying, "Hey, I want you over here. Hello."
Yeah, true. And I mean, but you gotta make a move before God can say, "Oh no, I need you over here." You got
Hmm.
to make that move. God gives you a direction, and God is not going to give you another assignment until you walk out the assignment He's already given you.
Yep.
That's like, for those of you watching as we record this, last night I was doing some editing work, and I got this. My fingers got. I don't know if, and I talk write better than I talk. I promise, but yeah, Brandy, I get it. Um.
Yeah, me too.
But I had this itch to write, but my brain would not come up with the words for me to write. I had to keep editing because God was like, "Oh no, you wanted to do that. I called you to edit and you chose to take on these editing projects. Now you're gonna have to finish it."
Mm.
So I had that itch, but yet when I'm editing, I'm writing these editor letters to the authors. So even though I'm writing my comments and my thoughts about what I've read through, it's not the same, it's not the creative type writing, but that a lot of us love to do, but it is writing in a sense because you're
Yeah.
communicating through writing to as an editor, you communicate through writing to your author. And Brandy, I'm sure you know that because you're an editor as well.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where that
What path of publishing did you use? I know you said you published your book in 6 months. Did you take a traditional, a
I
hybrid, or
self-publish.
self-publish?
Yeah.
What did
I
you use for it?
okay, so I have a friend who she helps me with my cover and she and my friend Tish, Vivier, I'm gonna give her a shout out because she did an awesome job with the cover. She helps me with the cover and she uses vellum to format. So she
Hmm.
helped me with the cover and formatting. I hired an editor that I met through another friend of mine, and she helped me edit it. And then I had some friends to help to look over it as well. But um but once they did that, then I uploaded it to Amazon myself. And my friend helped me format the paperback as well. But now that I have the EPUB format, I'm also going to next month I'm going to put it on draft to digital so that it goes wide, goes everywhere. But yeah, when you
Nice.
got friends, and I only, I'm not going to tell you how much I paid. It was very good price when you're on a budget. Let's just put it that way.
Yep.
But when you got friends in the business that can help you, that helps a lot.
It really does.
Yeah.
So Jill would like to know, do you have a general word count for each devotion?
Um, some of them are like 400 and something. And I have the creative challenge and the journal prompts on separate pages.
Hmm.
But some of the more in depth, especially the ones that I've done recently with my testimony bits in there, some of them are over 1,000. Because and
Okay.
it's not that I know that there's certain standards, but sometimes you can't if you got a story to tell within that devotion,
Hmm.
you can't always limit it to 300 words. I have to write what God gives me to write. And I think in a book, you have more room for that.
Kind of like chapters in fiction, they vary.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yep. Yeah, they
I
do.
mean,
I know a lot of devotional publishers want things to be more consistent from devotion to devotion, but when you are self-publishing and following what the Lord has for you, there's absolutely room for variation. You mentioned your creative prompts. Can you give an idea or like an example of what kind of creative challenge you put with your devotions?
okay, so let me think. Okay. I don't have the book in front of me and I
Mhm.
can't read it
Of
and
course.
talk at the same time. But I'm going to give you an example from an insight that I heard during my Progress Pod meeting today. One of the ladies had this question that came up. What is your warrior stance?
Hmm.
That would be an example of a journal reflection prompt. Or, whatever the devotion is written on, let's say, um, throw out an example and I can throw out, you know, throw out a suggestion and I can give you an example from that. Because I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking like if you have a devotion that's based on, say, Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 8, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. So, say you had a devotion on that scripture. What would a creative prompt kind of be, or creative challenge kind of be for that kind of devotion?
Okay, so the creative challenge about trusting God. My creative challenge would be to take a journal or a notebook, or if I had a book with blank pages, you could do it in the book, but ebooks you can't do that with.
Hmm.
So let's just say you read the devotion, but you don't know you want to you learn how to trust God, but you're still not sure where to turn or what direction to take. My thing is either to take a walk or sit still with God. The thing is of being still. Because Psalm 46:10, the first part of it says, "Be still and know that I am God." So you have to be still in order to hear the small voice and write down what God tells you. Or
Okay, I like that.
draw an image of what God is showing you in that moment.
Okay, so like a creative, actionable step that the reader can take.
Right.
Love that.
And then the prompt is, what is God telling you to do? And um or one of the and you don't have to write this and respond to me. Do you trust God what God is saying? What is
Yes.
your understanding of these verses? These may be journal reflection prompts for you to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Those are great examples. So Dennis would like to know, do most of your devotions cover a central theme or are they general topics?
Well, the ones that I've done so far have a central, like praying through the season. Pray without ceasing is a verse is 1 Thessalonians 5:17. Um, That was one of my guiding Bible verses. Each devotion has a Bible verse, a guiding Bible verse that's a foundational verse that I talk about, and I will add other as I tell my story or write down what God lays on my heart. I will find other verses that relate and go into a bit of discussion on that specific devotion, that specific section of the book. But it's based around one central theme, and I break them down into devotional sections, or
Mhm.
because sometimes it can be a devotion. It's devotional, but I call it a devotional Bible study and journal all into one, rolled into one, because I cover different verses sometimes that relate to the theme that I'm discussing in the book. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does. Yep. So one thing naturally kind of leads to another.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
When you talk about your warrior stance, there was a little bit of question about that in the chat. Can you explain maybe to some people that might not know what is the warrior stance?
That's one of those things that I'm kind of camped out on because one of the ladies said that that was her insight. It's like from the spiritual standpoint, she said she was at a point of rest. It's like what is your warrior stance from a spiritual point? I need to kind of dig deeper, camp out on that because it was like one of those things that and I put a question in my journal, which I got these journals like this for Christmas.
Nice. Very nice.
I got another one. They say the power of writing on the back, but this is the second one, the other one I got. Those are used strictly for prayers and thoughts and conversations with God. I have notebooks for taking notes. But anyway, I put that question down and I'm like, Lord, what is my warrior stance? Because that's one of those things that caught me. And at some point today, I want to camp out on that and do a little digging into that. That might be a blog post, or that might be another devotion that I write. Who knows? But it's from a spiritual sense. I'm taking. If anybody else has any reflective insight on that and you want to share that, that's cool too.
Definitely a interesting topic to explore.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your idea of when you're spending time with God to write down what he tells you. I don't know about the rest of you, but sometimes I get up from quiet time with the Lord and then get busy about the day. And then I'm like, Lord, what was it you told me? I don't remember. And I've tried to get in the habit of jotting down just little snippets of what he told me that day. Sometimes I journal more, but that's something that I've just started doing. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that as well. So God's using you to confirm that I heard him right. And I always appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And me being blind, I do handwrite, and I think I shared that the last time. I may not go back and use my phone to try to read it because my writing can be a little wonky. But it's like if I write it down, the concept is there. So I may not, unless it's something that I need to make note of or need to revert back to, then I'll make electronic notes on my phone or email them to my computer. But a lot of times when I write things in the journal, it's God telling me these things, and it's like the concept is still burned into my brain as I do my handwriting. I don't know how else to describe that. And that's something that God has taught me how to do.
I like
That's neat.
a comment that Ben left in the chat that says, "I think my true warrior stance would be on my knees." And I think
Mm,
that's true of all of us. I think I
yes.
see that thread a lot in what you're saying. It really is kind of like I'm mindful of Jonah in this example here, where we need to get out of our own way and our own path and stop running away from God's direction. And
Mm-hmm.
so that first initial step, that getting on your knees and saying, God, where are you taking me? Where are you pointing me? I don't want to stand in your path for my writing. Where should it go? And we can oftentimes not only get in our own way, but get in God's way or run away from it entirely. And so, yeah, this I think is a good stance to take. That all warriors should first start on their knees before God with that path.
Not only that, but here lately, and this is something God has just revealed to me. My warrior stance has been on my couch writing in my journal
Hmm.
because that's where I have my private prayer conversations with God in the quiet.
I would think that that is a requisite for writing devotions. Before we put pen to page, so important that we spend time with God in prayer, in His Word.
Right. And I don't know if you've heard the concept of having a business meeting with God. Shelley Hitz talks about that all the time in Christian Book Academy. And then, of course, with Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, they talk about that too. But it's that two-way journaling. Because Habakkuk 2:2 said, write the vision and make it plain and put it on. King James says tables, but other versions say tablets, so that all who read it may run, or all who see it may run. Basically, writing his answer.
Mm.
So you write your prayer and your questions, but you also write his answer, and it's like a two-way conversation in your journal, and that is like, as writers, that's that business meeting with God, because in taking that time. Sometimes it can be a minute, sometimes it can be an hour. It just depends.
I like that. Years ago, I heard someone say, try to spend at least 2 minutes, which sounds super short, but 2 minutes of sitting in God's presence, not thinking about anything else. And that's difficult, but it also draws us closer to Him, I think. What are your thoughts on that, Anne?
Yeah, it does. And trying to sit still for 2 minutes, the sitting still part is the easy part.
It's the
It's the
praying.
not thinking or not like dozing off that's the hard part. But sometimes when I get in that twilight zone where I'm aware of my surroundings, but yet I'm kind of zoned out at the same time, that a lot of times that's when I get these spiritual downloads.
Exactly. Exactly.
And like I say, sometimes it's a dream, because sometimes God will speak to me in dreams,
Mm-hmm.
and it may not make sense at first, but the more I think about it and the more I brainstorm with some friends of mine, the more I brainstorm about it, um, the more I realize what those dreams or what those images mean.
Neat.
I agree with you, Anne, on the dreams. There's times that I've asked questions before I go to sleep, and then I'll have the most vivid dreams. And when I write it, and I've gotten in the habit of waking up and like immediately writing the dreams down, because the things that you remember are what helps you decipher the dreams. And I found some Christian sites um, that help you decipher certain things with dreams. And it's just amazing how God answers us. We just have to be vigilant, but we also have to be willing, to open ourselves up to hear from the Lord. And free flow writing in my journal, often helps me do that too. I've written so much in my journal, and then go back and I think, wow, God told me that, and here I am, and I'm still not being obedient, because I let life get in the way. But um, He wants to speak to us, and if He spoke to ones that went before us in our faith, then why wouldn't we think that He would speak to us doing the same? And we just have to make those moments. And I like what Norma said about the still small voice, because it's taking that quiet time, going away from the world and getting in that quiet moment with the Lord, and just say, here, Lord, here I am. And what do you have to say to me today? There's somebody on Facebook that actually um, posts that. This is what I heard from the Lord today. And it's just amazing how He speaks to us. We just have to be willing and open.
And and everybody experiences that still small voice in a different way. The very first time, and I know this is not about my devotional writing, but this is how I've grown. But the very first time I heard that still small voice, I rededicated my life to God, and I was doing laundry. This is when I was married to my first husband. I was doing laundry, and I asked the Lord what He wanted me to do, because I was writing, and it wasn't the best in the world. That was when I made some mistakes I don't like to talk about. Anyway, but it was like everything else disappeared. The TV was on, but it disappeared. And I felt like I'd been pulled into this I don't know if vortex is the right word for it, but and I heard this echo, read my word.
Mm.
And I was pulled into that. And it's like, and then I came out and I didn't want to move. But now the still small voice is like, more like a thought that would not a thought or a silent whisper, a soundless whisper. And it's like it was not a thought that I would have had.
I've
So,
heard other people comment that one way to discern between what is a thought of God and what is not a thought of God is whether or not it aligns with Scripture. And if the thought that you have urges you to do something that is contrary to Scripture, that's not of God, and to
oh
discard.
yeah, no. But I test the spirit too. I'm like, is this of the Holy Spirit before I even write it down?
Well, some people are still trying to find that and figure out what is God, what is not of God. So, what are your top um, recommendations for somebody that wants to write a devotional book?
First of all, ask the Lord what He wants to show you, what He wants to do. And I do not use AI to write, but I have used AI to find to help me find several scriptures, and then I will read those scriptures myself, and I will pray over those. I'm like, okay, Lord, does this
Mhm.
match the idea that you have for me? But also read devotional books. And I would say join Christian Book Academy, but if you don't have I want to have scholarship. But the Christian Book Academy trainings have been really helpful to me. But I mean, that's not for everybody. So I invite you to check it out, christianbookacademy.com. But if not, read I would say start by reading devotionals to get a feel for how they're written, because I've done that. And
Mhm.
when God told me He wanted me to write a devotional, I found some devotionals, and I'm like, okay, I need to see these examples. I need to see what the different styles and the different variations. And then to kind of get a foundation for what if there's a specific format. And then like I said, journaling with God and getting into the word and asking him how he wants to write it, and maybe even talking to, if you know of other people who have written devotions, or once you've found devotionals that you really like, maybe finding a way to connect with those authors online and talk to other people who have written them. Um, that was kind of my thing, and I also ran those by my Right to Ignite critique group, because I stopped writing my young adult to do the devotionals, and so I shared some of those with my critique group and got some really helpful insights. Um, and suggestions. But devotion writing, it's for me at first it wasn't easy. It felt like it was a daunting task, but it was exciting as well.
Hmm.
But I don't know that it's for everybody. But also I've learned with writing with devotionals, sometimes God may give you that based on lived experience. Because how can you walk somebody through something you haven't lived yourself
Very true.
or walked through yourself? So my thinking is God is asking me to do these devotions based on my lived experience, things that I've been through in my life.
So, do you feel like being willing to share yourself and part of your life is partly a requirement for writing devotions?
For me, it is, but it depends on the person, and it depends on what God wants you to
And
write.
perhaps on the kind of devotion too, I suppose.
And yeah, it depends on
Hmm.
the devotion. It depends on the day. It depends on the situation. That's the long and short answer. But
Mhm.
for me, that's that was the way. That was what God showed me. But everybody's different,
Yep.
because you could ask, like I said, you could ask somebody like Cindy Sproles, and she'll tell you the hook, book, look, and hook, and she'll tell you, the format for it. But you, God does not. You cannot put God in a box or a formula, because God may give you a totally different formula for your book.
That's a very good point. So be open to whatever God shows you.
Exactly.
Hmm.
On the topic of reading devotions to help kind of inspire you in a direction, do you have certain sources of devotions or devotionals that you would recommend people look at to get ideas?
Like I said, this for soul care for writers is one. Um, Let me think. What I did was I went on Amazon and I searched for the because my goal at first was to write devotions for writers because I am a writer to do devotional for writers. But God showed me that there are other audiences that can benefit from my my skills and my skill levels and where He's brought me.
Mm.
So some are for writers and some are not. But it depends on your life circumstances, where you've been. Um, just be open. My word of the year is opportunity. So when like if you're in a writing group and you know somebody in that group has read that devotion, check it. All I'm saying is check it out. You may not like it or it may not resonate with you, but check them out. Do a search for devotionals for and then whatever audience you're writing for. Whatever audience God has shown you that He wants you to write for. And find and look on Amazon for devotions in that niche.
So here's a question you might not like to answer. Did you make any mistakes that you want to caution others to avoid?
Not with this book, but yes. Do not go with a print on, not print on demand. Do not go with a vanity publisher.
Mm.
I made that mistake twice,
Mm.
and I paid dearly for the first one. I didn't pay as much, but when I did my first novel, I saw how bad the editing was. I mean,
Mm.
the lady, she said she was really glad she was proud to edit it, but she didn't get back to me. She didn't leave any comments. She just edited through it. And then when I went back to look at it, because I was going to redo it, I saw some things that it's like, oh my, like semicolons in sentences that were in dialogue. I'm like, no,
Mm.
no, no, no.
Wow.
And some run-on sentences
Yep.
and things that I'd say, no, 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 no. Do not go with a vanity press because
That's good advice.
they
Well
are
said.
not out. They are not out for you. They are out to get money. And yeah,
One bit of advice I would probably want to touch on that very subject is how to discern when something is a vanity press. Because I know that we have some
Mhm.
that call themselves hybrid publishers that are coming out now. It's a very popular term, and it's a bit of a struggle for people to know what's the difference between these hybrid publishers and vanity, or if they're a vanity publisher just calling themselves hybrid. So, what are some of the things people should be wary of when trying to steer
if
clear of vanity publishers?
okay, if you hear an advertisement on TV, like because there've been these advertisements for on the radio even page publishing, steer clear from those because they have a lot of money to spend on advertising, but then you get in there and you find out that they're not what they're cracked up to be because
Mm.
they'll give you and I know there are hybrid publishers that charge for their services, like they have an editing package or whatever. Read the fine print. Read the
Yep.
fine print. See if you can find other authors who have published with these publishing companies, and you don't have to buy the book. Just if you look on their website, look at the name of the list of books that they publish. Go on Amazon and do the look inside. If it's a vanity press, odds are either they don't have a good editor or they don't have an editor at all. And the writing is really bad.
And a lot of them will accept just about any kind of
Anything,
book.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
And they'll give you a really good,
So low standards
yeah,
overall,
yeah,
and which you pay for.
yep, you do.
Yeah, you pay for everything. I think I was just reading a little bit about hybrid publishing for one particular publisher. Um, and there are some comments about, well, you partner with a hybrid publisher and they're supposed to kind of help you out a little bit. But sometimes some of them lean more towards vanity publishing because they won't help you market, or they might require that you buy a high number of books. Or this one that I read about required that you hire their editor, not your own editor. So definitely read the fine print. A vanity press, just expect that you will have to pay for everything. And the quality that you'll get will be little, not very good. It'll only be really what you put into
Substandard.
it. Yeah, it'll be what you put into it, and it might not be much more help, if at all. And vanity books don't get into the bookstores. They don't get into the markets where people will buy them, and you will end up most likely with a huge trunk of books in your garage that you have a hard time selling. So,
Well,
look around, search it. There are a lot of good websites out there that will tell the distinctive difference between vanity, hybrid, traditional, and self-publishing and indie, just to give you an idea. So I would say, go looking on the internet. There's a lot of good resources out there. There's Predators and Editors. Is that still around? Or Writer Beware?
Writer Beware
Writer
is still
Writer
Beware.
around.
Beware.
Yeah.
Editors and Predators is old. Writer Beware is out there. They'll have like a list of publishers and complaints that have come through, so you can check those out as well.
Look at Writers Weekly as well,
Yeah.
because she has a whispers and warnings section.
That's right. That's the other one. Yep.
Angela Hoyt does that.
Yep.
And
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Melissa.
I was just going to add Author Media and Author Social also has some areas you can check out. A novel marketing podcast that has blog posts that you can search for those kind of sources.
Not only that, with marketing, if you think a publisher's going to do the marketing for you, they will help you if they're, but don't kid yourself. You're still going to have to do some marketing.
Yep.
I edited for 2 publishers. One, the ones I work for have this family atmosphere where you're part of the publishing family, and they want the authors to help market each other, but you still have to do the marketing with your newsletters and stuff like that. But a vanity press, their turnaround times are a lot quicker than maybe a hybrid would be. I've never worked with a hybrid publisher to get a book published, but their vanity press has quicker turnaround times. I got my book back within 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, within 3 weeks, and he wanted me to look it over, and I didn't know the issue. I had a character's name that was misspelled until I got a better speech, because I was using one synthesizer and it wasn't telling me the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got another one that was mispronouncing the name, and then I had a braille display. Let's just say when I found those things, I was livid.
Mm.
So, and then she's like, "Well, I was happy to edit it," and I'm like, "You didn't edit it, lady. I'm an editor. I would have done a better job with it. I mean, if it wasn't mine, I'd have done a better job with it."
Yeah, well, just you said something earlier on that I think is worth coming back to and highlighting. You can write your book, you can edit for other people, but if you write something, ask somebody else to edit your book, because we just miss stuff. We go blind.
We're too close to
our own
work.
stuff. We get too close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, need an objective, fresh eyes just to check ourselves. Even if you are a fantastic writer, still need objective eyes. Yeah. Was there anything else that you would caution against for those writing devotionals, or any writing in general?
Anyway, like I said, critique groups, editors, beta readers, ARC readers, but don't rush the process.
Good.
Do not try to don't just throw something up on Amazon and say, "Okay, I published a book." No, I learned that the hard way. You got to make sure. I mean, yes, it was a quick turnaround for this book, but God gave me the date that I needed to get it published. And he provided the way for me to get it done. So publish your book, as Shelley Hitz would say, at the pace of God's grace. Don't rush the process. Don't wait too long on it, but don't rush the process either, because it's all in God's timing, not in ours.
Good advice. So how about we have everybody come back on if you would like to, and you can raise your hand and ask questions and anything else you might want to comment on from what you've heard today or anything you're thinking about.
Just to throw out there too, there were a few videos I had to close down while we were on recording. So if you are having trouble getting your video working, let us know in the chat and I will release your video so you can come on.
The infamous writer's chat jail.
Yes.
Easy to get out of, though.
Right. And I love what you said about write at the pace of God's grace. Because so often we feel like it's good to have self-imposed guidelines, but I think we need to be flexible with that.
Mm.
And so I like that, right at the pace of God's grace.
It reminds me of
Yeah.
the scripture that says, we shouldn't say, I'm going to go do this, but if the Lord wills, we will go and do this or that.
No,
Don't
that's
say
that's a great point because I think, especially at the beginning of the year, when you're looking at all your goals, what you want to accomplish for the year, giving yourself some grace to maybe not reach all the goals. That's a wonderful point to build in.
That's why God gives me a word of the year. I've
Mm.
learned instead of making resolutions, do a word of the year and ask God what the word is, because usually it kind of gives me an idea of what's going to happen, though I don't know what's going to happen. And then I get more words too that come along with it, which I could sit and talk about that all day. But anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
and I didn't mean to tout Christian Book Academy so much, but I personally needed, I get all these trainings, but I needed something in smaller chunks and with actionable steps. That helped me get from point A to point B
Mm-hmm.
and get where I am with the devotional book. Because if I just tried to do it all by myself, it might not get done.
Yep. Now, speaking of, well, I say speaking of because I just read somebody's comment in the chat talking about marketing ads, and it made me think of what have you done to promote your book?
Well, I have a newsletter. I put it in my newsletter. Finally got one that actually works. I've also done some social media posts, done some podcast guesting. So if anybody knows of any podcasts that are looking for guests on this topic or, devotional type topics, let me know because I've done some of that. And like I said, doing videos and stuff. That marketing is one of those things I struggle with.
Mm. Yep.
It is.
That a lot of
It's
writers struggle with, to be
it's a
honest.
struggle, but I've gotten some fairly good sales, especially and I even tried doing a half off sale during the Black Friday points. Let me tell you that I don't know what I did wrong with that, but it did not work.
Trial and error. A lot of marketing is trial and error. What have you found? I mean, have you found some things that have worked better than others?
Actually, when I launched it, I actually published it before the day I launched it, and letting people know that it's out there, kind of getting the buzz going beforehand, and sending it to people that ask them to write reviews. I've done that. I've sent some PDF copies or EPUB copies to get people to ask people to write reviews, and in return, I will ask for a copy of that person's book, and I'll write the review. I'll review theirs in return. And my list is small, but it is growing. And when we go into the after party, I'll have to mute, and I will put not only the link to the devotional if anybody's interested, but
absolutely.
I do have, even though I don't have that custom link on my site, and yeah, there are some little typos in there that you just have to overlook. But I do have a direct link to my newsletter if anybody wants to subscribe. And once I get a notification from my newsletter, it's called Button Down. Once I get a notification that people have subscribed, I will send you a personalized letter with a link to my free downloads page. Right now I have 10 journaling prompts PDF, and I have a one topic haiku PDF that up there, but I may be adding some things. But you go to my free downloads page and you can either get any or all of the downloads. I just limit it to one. I haven't done the book funnel and all that yet, but I give you options.
Great.
So I do have that.
All right. We will take your links and put them with the recording on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I'll put those in the chat if you guys want to if you guys have anybody while they're doing anybody have any comments or want to talk, I can do that real quick for a second.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Let me go mute because my screen reader will bleed in.
Okay, doke. So if any of you, well, I'm kind of curious of who in the room is writing, has written, or is wanting to write devotionals. Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay. The majority of the room. Nice, nice. Let's hear from some of you. What have you found most rewarding about writing devotionals? Stephanie? Oops, would you unmute? There you go.
I didn't realize I had raised my hand, but for a while I did an online blog that was called Wandering Through the Bible.
Mhm.
And it would be so satisfying when somebody would send a note saying that that was what they needed for that day, or that they were glad somebody else felt that way. I can be pretty raw in my sharing, and some people shy away from that, and others embrace it. So just the personal interaction is what I enjoyed most.
Yeah, just to know you've touched somebody's life right in a moment when they needed it. I agree. I've had that experience as well. Dennis?
I have one 366-day devotional book that's a general book, and then I'm started working on one it's devoted living for the sports enthusiast. So I take all different sports and sports terms and have found scriptures writing on those. And then I've done just individual devotions and stuff too as well. I love writing devotions because that's one way to really encourage other people and hopefully get them to think a little bit deeper and draw closer to God in their relationship. So that's my main purpose of writing devotions and prayers too, because prayers can be part of devotion. So I have some books of prayers.
Yep.
Not only that, sometimes I've hold on, my phone is yakking at me. Thank you. Yeah, I know. When I read devotions with prayers, um, sometimes I'll read the prayers out loud. Sometimes I'll use it as a prayer starter. But I've learned how to write like a journal type thing. And one of the things I added in my first entry for that was a prayer starter, which I may do that with some of my devotionals too. That way you can, because there's a podcast called Prayer Starters. And she'll do like the prayer starter for the day, and then she'll say deepen the conversation. So that may be, for devotions, if you're writing devotions but you don't want to put the whole prayer, maybe that could be a way to get people. That may be part of your creative challenge to get people to deepen the conversation with God.
I haven't heard of prayer starters before. That's an interesting, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Prayer prompts.
Prayer prompts. Yeah, exactly. That too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I put my links in the chat. And my website is just AnnHarrisonAuthor.com. You guys
Great.
want that? Yep.
Great. Thank you.
One
Jill?
thing that I was going to say, my husband hasn't been going to church with me that long, over a year, and it's been super exciting. And my daughter bought him some devotionals. They were men's devotional, and the first two that he read, he really, really liked. And then the last couple that we've bought him, I've really seen where it would be different kinds of devotionals for men as opposed to women, because women want to write about how we feel. We want to write about what we're thinking, and, having any kind of thoughts and prompts and all of that is exciting to me. And I love that kind of thing. And the last one that we bought for him was wanting him to write down his feelings. How did he feel about that scripture? And he was just put out. He was like, I'm reading it, I'm learning.
What does this make you want to go out and do instead? Might be a little.
Yeah. And so that was just a kind of a comment I thought I would throw out there, which you guys probably, that seems really obvious to you. And I know that about guys, and even into preschool, when I worked in the children's library, the preschool boys want nonfiction books. It's just, and it's so different. And I knew that, but that was something that when I bought that for him, I didn't pay attention. And so that is something that I feel like when we were looking, my one daughter and I were looking, and there's not that many men's devotionals that we found that we felt like he would really enjoy and that he would like. So if you guys have any that you feel like are really good men's devotionals, I would sure take those suggestions and give them a look.
All right, men in the house, you have assignments. Give her devotional suggestions.
The first one that he really loved was something, now I'm not going to remember, View from the Tree Stand or something like that, because he's a deer hunter. And so that was the first one, and he loved it. And it was just,
I don't know if he's a race car fan. I seem to recall there was devotional for race cars, for race fans. And then there was also a devotional for runners, written by a guy. So he's probably not a runner, but those would be kind of somewhat in those veins, somewhat. We think of others. Maybe we'll have to tag you in our Writers Chat members Facebook group so you can get some of those recommendations.
Right. And that I am writing a devotional, and one of the things that, and I'm putting personal testimonies and things, and the exciting thing about that has been when I pray before I get ready to write them down, and to have things where God brings it back to my memory, and I sit amazed that I had forgotten it. I had forgotten that particular miracle or that particular time that he just made himself real. And so writing this devotional has really cemented in my heart over again all of the wonderful things that he has done for our family and for me, and that he loves us.
And there's one thing that I forgot to mention that I did now, that I did with this book, and I'm going to do with the other books. A couple things. One, I don't do like the daily devotions, because some people may not want to read them every day, and some people may not want to read them in order. My daughter bought a daily devotion that had the days of the year. She's like, and I said, well, are you going to read your devotional? She's like, she has it, and it was leather bound, but she said she didn't want to read it because she felt like she was going to be tied to that particular day.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I title devotions and write them in more like in a chapter style instead of daily, because some people each day may not resonate. And one other thing too is pray before if you're going to do the self-editing, pray before you edit each chapter, because then God can show you what he wants you to change, and what he wants you to add. I did that with my first one. Excuse me.
Would you have any final words for us here before we find out what's on tap for next week?
My encouragement is, don't put yourself in a box. don't try to put God in a box. If God is leading you to write something different than what you're used to, follow his direction. Try it out, let him lead and guide you, and then maybe connect with other writers who have done something similar.
Excellent.
Great advice.
Thank you, Anne. Melissa.
Well, on that note, next week we'll actually be having an opportunity to help you if you're in an area where you're not sure where to go or you're stepping out and need some assistance, because we are going to have one of our traditional unplugged episodes. So next week, Writers Chat Unplugged, this is a time where we don't record live. These don't go live. This is in person community supporting community here in Writers Chat. And so if you have a specific thing that you are writing or questions that you have that have to do with craft or the industry, or you know, you've come against a kind of a hard spot, you're not sure how to get by, and you just need some support from fellow writers who might be able to point you in the right direction, these are the shows you want to attend live. So we really encourage you to come join us for our unplugged episodes, and look forward to being there to help you out and support you in your own writing journey.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Those of you that have been here in audience live with us, and we thank you so much. You have created quite a chat here going on about devotions and devotional books, and we appreciate your encouragement and being here as our guest today. Be sure to stick around for the after party, and remember to join us next week at 11 a.m. Eastern and go around the globe to find your spot. For now, for Melissa and Brandy and I will say goodbye till next week.
See you then.